Peace, family. Welcome to another episode of Underground Railroad Radio. This is your host, Brother Rich, and I'm back with the living legend, Professor Griff. Welcome back to the show, brother.
Peace, good brother. It's a pleasure to be back, and after all I went through over the last week, it's just cool to sit quiet, collect my thoughts and collect myself, and be able to breathe for once, man.
That's good. It's good to hear, man. It's good to hear you doing good. I'm sure the family out there was concerned about you, want to make sure you're all right. So it's good to hear that, brother.
Yes, and I definitely want to thank everybody for being concerned and everybody looking out, whether they wanted to send $1, a dime, or invite me into their safe home and protect me or whatever. So I really appreciate that from the people.
Indeed. And on that note, Professor Griff, we talked about the Republican National Convention last week. We dealt with that. It was like a Klan rally. And I guess this week I want to touch on they're having the Democratic National Convention. And some interesting things have been said over the last couple of days that myself and I'm sure the family as well want you to educate us on. Michelle Obama gave a speech. She's out there promoting Hillary Clinton. She wants Hillary Clinton to be president. So she gave a speech, and she was talking about the important place in her family's important place in American history, and the main theme of it was the racial progress that this country has undergone. One of the things she said in the speech is, I wake up every morning in a house that was built by slaves, and I watch my daughters, two beautiful, intelligent black young women playing with their dogs on a White House lawn. So, with her saying that, a lot of people took it different ways. Her saying that the White House was built by slaves. One of the people who said something that I know everybody wants to hear you comment and speak on is Bill O'Reilly. He came back the next day and said that the slaves that worked there were well fed and had decent lodging provided by the government. So we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, I definitely want to know your opinion on Michelle Obama's speech, as well as her sentiments on America having so much racial progress. My question to you, Professor Griff, is, do you think America has progressed racially in the manner in which Michelle Obama was making it seem? And if not, Professor Griff, give the family some examples, because there's different levels of slavery. If you don't agree with that, what would you feel is racial progress? What would have been racial progress in this country if you don't agree with Michelle Obama?
Well, as always, Brother Rich, I take the unpopular position of being one of those that never try not to give my opinion. If we base an answer on actual fact, and we look into the whole of America's landscape as far as the different areas, I think the different areas of people activity that Francis Cress Wilson gave us, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, we can look across the board and see whether or not if we've made progress. We're not talking about the things that they put on Fox News or the things that they put on CNN or the things that come through the Associated Press or Reuters or any of the news services. We're talking about the actual day-to-day grind, the day-to-day living, the day-to-day struggles of black people in America that white writers, with them suffering from aspects of cognitive dissonance and the other things that they suffer from, we can't trust them to write our story and actually tell the truth. This has become the problem in America with understanding black people's struggle. It's always written through the lens and from the pen of someone that doesn't look like us. So then when they do hear from us, it's always shocking to them. So to answer your question very directly, basing what I'm about to say on actual facts, Michelle Obama is kind of off base, if I could say that, some kind of words, gentler words. She's off base simply because she's one of the ones that is able to make it to the big house, to live a comfortable life. No, America has not made progress in the way that Michelle Obama actually is dreaming and thinking that it has. I dare Michelle Obama to trade places with Shaliqua. You understand what I'm saying? Who has to raise Quantavious in the fucking projects somewhere on the south side of Atlanta or somewhere in Memphis. You understand what I'm saying? Having to deal with that. No, Michelle Obama, we applaud you for your speech. We applaud you for bigging up your husband and giving an overview from inside out on the struggles of you and your husband and your two children and your dog living in the White House, giving us a bird's eye view of what that's about and the pressure and what you've taken from critics and people that have criticized you and your children having to live under that. Thank you for that, and thank you for your speech, but absolutely not. You're way off base. We don't live like you think we live, Michelle Obama. It's a lot worse than what you could ever imagine. Those are words that you and your family have to deal with, Michelle. This is actual fact. If I can say it real bluntly, man, they put hands on us, Michelle, for real. You understand what I'm saying? Something that your husband could actually do something about, but it won't. Plain and simple. So, have we made progress in America? Brother Rich, you would think that if they stab us in the back 6 inches, and the knife is in your back, and you walk around with the knife in your back 6 inches, yet your brother came along and pulled it out. When I say your brother, I'm talking about Malcolm, Martin, Muhammad, Marcus Garvey. I'm talking about everyone that have to the front lines to fight and struggle for black people's liberation, have pulled that knife out 3 inches. Yet someone will have to tap you on the shoulder, or you have to tap them on the shoulder and say, listen, thank you for what you've done, but the knife is still in my back. And the rest of the world do not see this, Brother Rich, on how we have to struggle. So they may come along and says, well, you guys have made great progress. Look what you guys have jobs, and you look at the rappers. You guys are sagging your $300 jeans and your True Religion jeans. You understand what I'm saying? You guys are smoking mad weed. Right. You guys have money. You guys are making it rain in the club, and all the things I see. You guys have truly made it. No, we haven't. Because if that's the measuring stick that you use to determine whether or not a people have made it, you're sadly mistaken. It is said by one of the scholars, the worst thing that you can do to repeat was rob a people of the memory of themselves. This is the thing that we're seeing black people act out with money, i.e. $40 million slave. You know, the idea of this behavior that you constantly see us exhibit on the small and the big screen, whether we're getting paid for it on the big screen or on the small screen, or whether we're not getting paid for it on YouTube. Black people do some foolish, childish shit, especially when it comes to how we handle money and how we handle one another. And this is very real. And I'm sure Michelle Obama sees this. So I just wanted to lay that out. We can lay some actual fact out when we talk about, when we go into the annals of history, when we talk about the slave narratives, and we compare them to the rap narratives of today. When we go back and listen to the slave narratives, and we can compare them to Empire or Scandal, and then we could put them side by side, and then we could measure what Michelle Obama's statement on whether or not we've made progress in America. Why is it that every other people that come here seem to benefit when it comes to owning and controlling, owning property, owning real estate, owning businesses and hiring their own, carving out an education which promotes self-worth right on across the board. Why don't we have politicians that speak for black people and not be afraid to speak for black people? Why don't we ever challenge those politicians that want our vote, to challenge them to bring our issues to the forefront so that other people can recognize what we're going through? And there are a lot of people out there who probably will support the black issues, but they don't know it exists because our politicians are too cowardly to present these things where they need to be presented. And this is a very real dynamic in which we face in America. Hell, if you're not going to be a real stand-up spokesperson for black people, whether you're in the high schools, elementary schools, in the pulpit, on YouTube, or Facebook, or you in politics, sit your ass down. We have enough people cooning and clowning. You understand what I'm saying? We need some people that's going to be there and speak up and speak out for black people and what we suffer in America to make our situation better, Brother Rich.
Indeed. Now, Professor Griff, one of the things Bill O'Reilly said in his when he was speaking was he talked about the white slaves. He said it wasn't just black slaves. It was white slaves as well. I keep hearing about, even in the comment section on some of the videos, there's white people that comment who say, well, hey, the Irish were slaves too. You guys weren't the only ones that were slaves. So talk to me about when this whole Irish thing. People keep talking about the Irish, or there was other slaves as well. Is it sensible to compare what we went through with what the Irish went through? Some people told me stories about how the Irish babies used to get stunk in the chimneys, and they had to clean the chimneys, and sometimes they got stuck in it, and they tell about the horror stories that they went through as well. So what can you tell the people? Because when you look at the Irish and you look at blacks, you see two completely different things going on in America. So some people may think, and the idea Bill O'Reilly's trying to throw out there is, hey, if the Irish and the other slaves could advance in America, you niggas need to stop complaining and advance just like the other people that were slaves too. So talk to me about the Irish being slaves, and why were they slaves in the first place? Because Jesse Williams talked about the invention of whiteness. They said they wasn't white back then. So this whole thing is confusing. They saying the Irish weren't white, the Jews weren't white. It's real confusing, Professor Griff. I need you to kind of just bring that all together for the people to help us understand what exactly went on during slavery.
Well, Brother Rich, if we were to intelligently and boldly answer the questions that the vast majority of the people that have bought into the whole idea of this invention of whiteness and benefited from it, not only bought into it, but benefit from it, Brother Rich, we'd have to answer the questions and be very, very direct. So let's answer the questions. Let's ask the question first, and then let's answer the question. When was the white slave trade? Okay, we're going to ask that question, okay? Mm-hmm. When was the Irish slave trade?
Right, when was the Irish slave trade?
So, I can't find that. I'm Googling it right now. I can't find it.
Right.
So, let's just be real. This is no slight. I'm not throwing shade at Irish people. Irish people went through what they went through under the hands and the control of other white people. So they need to take that up with other white people. But I'm asking a basic question. When was the Irish slave trade? Number two, who was Irish slave masters? Who was the slave masters that controlled and enslaved the Irish? Were they other white people? If they were other white people, what other white people? Number three, did Irish people come over here from Ireland on ships and boats and chains? And did Irish people, these are a series of questions, did Irish people get their names taken from them, their language taken from them to the point where they can't communicate with themselves? Did the Irish people get their memory and their history stolen and their memory erased? Did the Irish people Were they castrated? Were the Irish people raped in slavery? Did the Irish people have to go through years and years and years of torment, watching the slave master's children go into your relatives and producing lighter-skinned people? Did the Irish people have to, were they forced to, as brutes and as studs, to go to their cousins and their nieces and their daughters and just random people that they don't know to produce other white slaves, other Irish slaves? I think not, Brother Rich. If we can answer any of those questions, I'd stop right now. But since we can't, I think I'll proceed forward. Did the Irish people have to come to America and endure everything that black people had to go to the point where if we spoke our native tongue, we get our tongues cut out? We got sold down the river. Families were broken apart. Not only that, Brother Rich, the whole idea of trying to marry during that particular time, God forbid you trying to own a home and you trying to do the quote-unquote right thing. We're not even talking about voting yet. We haven't even moved up to that part of the history. We're still talking about slavery. We still talk about getting off the goddamn boat 9,000 miles. Those of us that survived and made it to America then have to be chained to one another. Not to experience, not to mention the whole ma'afa, the trip over here and what we had to endure. Irish people didn't have to go through that. So by the time we got here, as Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad says, have you forgotten that once we were brought here, we were robbed of our names, robbed of our language. We lost our religion, our culture, our God, and many of us, by the way we act, we even lost our minds. So much so that every time you saw a black person on any level, we were made to confront and deal with the whole idea of being subhuman. And then when they wrote the Constitution, they wrote us in as 3/5 of a human being. And then made it so difficult for us to even exercise the right to even try to become Americans by being whipped and beat and murdered at the hands of any white person. Several weeks ago, on the same interview with you, I talked about the Casual Killing Act. White Irish didn't have to go through that. They would kill us at will, Brother Rich, whenever they felt like it. So Irish people didn't have to go through this. We do know the Irish history. We don't have time to break it down tonight, Brother Rich, but we can go into the Irish people's history, and we can show how a lot of them faked being Irish. A lot of them didn't have the thick, heavy Irish accents after a while, and having to actually have this Irish pride. A lot of them do nowadays because it's fashionable to do that. And I guess the time is ripe for them to do that, as they should. As they should, Brother Rich. But if we start and begin to answer some of these questions that I've posed to you and to us, if we start to answer these questions, the true history of the parallel between Irish people being quote-unquote slaves and black people being slaves is like night and day. Two totally different dynamics, Brother Rich, in what we experience. So we have to understand that, Brother Rich. We went through something that no other people on this earth have been through, and we're still going through it. We see Michelle Obama and other people in the audience with their tailor-made dresses and tailor-made, Armani suits that are able to sit up at the DNC and even at the RNC. And a lot of people around the globe are looking, especially black people, especially on the continent of Africa, looking at their televisions and looking at black people dressed so well, speaking so well, looking beautiful, as though we came up, Brother Rich. No, this is not necessarily a come up, brothers and sisters, that are around the globe, that are in the black African diaspora, that are looking at black people in America. This is not necessarily a come up. Those of y'all that are looking at this, most probably still have their culture intact, still speak a foreign, their native tongue, still are educated by people that look like them. You understand what I'm saying? Not having to deal with what we have to deal with in America. And yes, to end that particular point, Brother Rich, Racism is still alive in America and throughout the black African diaspora as we speak. And we need to understand that and never forget that and move with that in the back and in the front of your mind. The ignorance, these people's ignorance on how they deal with black people and understand and try to understand the plight, and even not trying to understand the plight of black people, their ignorance deserves no opposition, Brother Rich, only dismissal. I'm going to say that again.
Right.
Their ignorance doesn't deserve our opposition. We don't need to stand there and prove to them what we went through. Look at us. Come to the hood and observe us. It's proof as to what we went through. So their ignorance deserves no opposition. Only our prideful, and I can say that, our prideful dismissal. Because any one of us that get a knowledge of self can put the plight of black people in front of the world. And we will make a brass monkey shed tears. Only if we was true in our conviction to who we are as a people. And I'm truly there, Brother Rich. If given the time and space and the platform, whether someone else gives it to me or you and I create our own, we have to tell the story of our people, all right, in the face of everyone that will dismiss what we've been through in America. And it did not only start with slavery, Brother Rich, plain and simple. And it's not over. As Teddy Riley would say, it's not over. Jam. You understand? Say this shit is not over. Well.
No, when you think about white power structure and white supremacy and the oppression of black people worldwide, you think about these different groups, and you think about the whites who have been fighting amongst each other throughout history. You think about the so-called Jews, and a lot of white people will tell you, it's a Jewish conspiracy. Then when I remember me and Sarnetta was just on 125th last week. He was interviewing a so-called white Jew, and the white Jew said, it's the Europeans, it's not us. They're the ones that we're oppressed as well. It's them, it's not us. So you have them, you have the Jews, you have the Russians, then you have the English, Great Britain. You have so many different groups, and even with World War II and Hitler and him going against the so-called Jews, you wonder what all of this I'm sure people wonder, why are all these white people beefing with each other? What's the beef between all these different white groups? And then you think about today, you fast forward to today, and you see pretty much, it seems as though they're pretty much united. So my question to you is, through analyzing history and seeing the history of white on white violence throughout all these groups, and seeing what seems to be a united front today, whether it's United Nations, NATO, or all of these groups that they have, is it fair to say, Professor Griff, that the glue that is holding all of these white groups together is the subjugation of blacks worldwide?
If, and I must underline that word, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing is wrong in her assessment and formulating the definition of racism and white supremacy. If she's wrong, we have absolutely nothing to worry about, white people. If Dr. Frances Cress Welsing is absolutely correct, we have a lot to worry about. Simply because if the glue that is holding white people together is the thing that they constantly throw in our face. And I'm tearing a page out of Stacey Dash's book.
Wow.
We're all Americans. There shouldn't be a BET. There shouldn't be a Black History Month or African Americans. Stop that. We're all Americans. Stop that, heifer. Stop that shit. If that is the glue, then we fail, Brother Rich. America fails, and black people, through our stupidity, believing white America, we fail. Why? Because if they vote us in as 3/5 of a human being, we're not yet Americans yet. Am I correct? Come on, talk to me.
Right.
If that is the case, then, Brother Rich, when are we going to become Americans so we can reap the benefits of what being an American has to offer, Brother Rich? When are we going to start reaping the benefits? When are we actually going to become Americans and get treated like Americans? I want the goddamn apple pie, the fucking baseball cards, all that shit that America has to offer. If I'm truly an American, treat me like an American and let me benefit from everything else, every other American. I don't care if it's Italian American, Irish American, Jewish American, American American, and some other Americans, Mexican American, and somebody. Give me the benefits that everyone else. Give me all the things that everyone else benefits from in America. So, Brother Rich, if white genetic annihilation is the glue, or is the trigger point in which white people have to rally around certain causes because the red flag goes up and the alarm goes up. Wait a minute. White people alert. If all the white people stop doing what you're doing to one another. We have a serious issue here. Black people are making progress, and we can't allow that shit. Black people, they put some of our foolish white people help black people help follow some of the tricks that the 1% played on the rest of the world, and they elected an African American to put him in the White House. So now all the white people got to rally around that cause and attack Barack Obama and make sure that he doesn't make progress for black people for the last 8 years that he's been in the White House. And it actually worked, Brother Rich. Whether they're Democrats, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, plain straight up racist ass crackers or whoever the fuck they are. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So if that rallying cry is stop Obama, if the rallying cry is affirmative action, if the rallying cry is there's too much testosterone, there's too many black people making progress and making too much money in the movies, then let's put out some movies that's going to stifle that progress. Let's put out a series of slave movies. If they're making too much progress in education, okay, let's stifle that. All right, let's bring up the question of Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, and let's regurgitate and re-stimulate black people so we'll start talking about slavery again so they won't make the progress. If they're making too much progress in the way of the Olympics or sports or whatever they're doing, let's stifle that. Let's change the rules. There's a young lady that came to our chemical cipher, handed me a paper dealing with changing the laws in America. And I thank the sister for giving me the paper. I read it more intensely later on, but I read it, and I asked the sister a question. I said, well, sister, you really think changing the laws in America are going to benefit black people? She said, well, it's a start. I said, sister, the law is only as good as those that enforce the law. And if they find us making too much progress with obeying the law and using the law for our progress, they will change the goddamn law, sister. Are you feeling what I'm saying, Brother Rich?
Yeah.
These are the trigger points that white people, regardless of Irish American, Italian American, Jewish American, whoever they are. You understand what I'm saying? Most may disagree with me. Some understand, a few understand. Some will say, Professor Griff has a point. Others will say, man, shut the fuck up, Professor Griff. That's some bullshit. I'm white in America, and I work hard every day, and the black person can do what I do to make progress every day. And I'm like, wait a minute. There's this thing called slavery that you haven't been through, Italian American. You understand what I'm saying? Something we have to deal with every single day. And the thing that we have to wake up dealing with every single day, white people, is the fact that we have black skin, and that's what you use to judge us. Whether it's a quiet, psychological, subconscious thing, or whether it's overt thing that you do at your job site, at the workplace, in the office, whether it's corporate America or the temp service. We're faced with this in a very real kind of way. Now, I know you're going to have the surface-ass conversation around the water cooler tomorrow after you hear this, but nonetheless, base your conversation on actual facts, and then give me a goddamn call.
I want the people to have a better understanding, since we're dealing with slavery and racism in America. I want the people to have a better understanding of what Dr. Francis Cress Welsing meant by white genetic annihilation. So I want to give an example, Professor Griff. let's say a white person, male or female, was removed from racist American society, the society that we live in, was removed from the racist indoctrination in the media, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, the negative, removed from the constant negative imagery of black people in the news, in the papers, on the streets, was removed from all negativity about blacks and placed in an environment in which there was nothing negative about black people. With this idea of white genetic annihilation, will it still trigger in them to do what it seems that what's going on globally right now? Because, I mean, this happens, this is the subjugation of black people is happening all over the world. So it's like, wait a minute, it's not just America, it's not just Africa, it's not just the Caribbean, it's not just Europe, it's worldwide. So a person's like, well, goddamn, how the hell is one group targeted all over the world? So my question, let's say we took these white people to another Earth where they don't have to go through the white supremacy system. Do you think it would still trigger them to have this fear of white genetic annihilation, Professor Griff?
To be honest with you, Brother Rich, I'm sorry that I started that out with but normally that's the process which we use to download some stuff. But Rich, yes, because nature, if you just kind of look at nature, nature will let white people know that black and dominant is innocent. This may sound really, truly, truly arrogant and too forthright for some white people listening to this, but I need you to buckle your seatbelt and not wear your sensitivity on your sleeve, white people. The reason why Dr. Francis Cress Welsing says white people have this propensity in leaning towards dominating and controlling black people and subjugating black people to the worst treatment ever on the face of the planet Earth, simply because they have to survive on a genetic level. Brother Rich, looking at nature provides for black people. I'm going to say that again. Nature provides for black people. Now you, as an individual, the average white person may say, well, shit, nature provides for white people too. The sun shines on the crops, and it rains, and it grows to food, and white people can eat it like black people can eat it. But when white people take to the earth, and they go into the earth, and the earth looks like me, it may be a problem. So therefore, now the food industry, in order for them to sell their products to white people, have to make not brown and black flour, but white flour, in order for white people to accept it. That's a hell of a thing on a psychological level.
Wow.
Well, come on now. Let's talk. Let's get deep for a minute. In order for white people to sell flour and sugar and all of these products that come up out of the earth, which are dark, black, brown, right? Come on, Brother Rich. They have to bleach the flour and the sugar, right, and make the sugar fit for white consumption. And in most cases, they change it to it being white, so white people can get past themselves. Sometimes they can't get past themselves to buy brown sugar and other food that come up out of the earth that's dark, because they can't get past themselves, Brother Rich. And this is very real, and we need to understand it on that genetic level. They are so fixated with the whole idea of surviving genetically, they can't ever see themselves in an inferior position to black people unless they subjugate black people. That is the only way we'll be inferior to white people. And I know this may sound like a David Duke rant to white people, but it's actually true. The sun loves us, white people. The blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. If you ain't got no soul, you ain't got no use. This is a very real dynamic in which we have to deal with every single day when we walk out into the sun and when we kiss the sun. You see, the sun may operate as your enemy, white people, at certain instances. The sun doesn't deal with black people that way. The cosmic forces work with us as long as we keep our nappy hair. Everything in nature works for black people if we stay true to the self. I know there's a roundabout way of answering that question, Brother Rich, but it's actually profound when you actually look at how nature provides for black people. I'm not saying it does it in any other way, but if you really look at how black people resonate with who and what we are and how we resonate with nature, it provides for us. Does it provide for what we need to do? Listen, no other people could have endured what black people have endured during slavery. Would you agree?
Indeed, definitely.
They tried to enslave the Native American, didn't work. Just did not work, man. They didn't have the get up and go that black people, just didn't have it. You understand what I'm saying? Not to say that aspects of their history didn't include that. If they tried a white slave trade with the Irish, I'm unaware of this, and I'm not sure if the average Irish person could have worked from can't see to can't see. See, when you woke up in the morning, you couldn't see. See, when you went to bed, you couldn't see. That's deeper than a 9 to 5 or working a 10-hour shift. You worked all the goddamn time. And how nerve these fucking people to say that we lazy. We worked all the goddamn time, Brother Rich. So no, when you talk about black people being lazy, I beg to differ with you. You know, we're the ones that have endured 400 and 500 years of this madness out there without a goddamn day off. So this is a very real dynamic. So when we talk about 100 years of lynching, Ralph Ginsburg, when you talk about other books that they have written about how black people were treated, I'm not sure if Bill Riley ever read those books, Brother Rich. Most of which were written by white people. So the true stories that was told in the slave narratives, I'm sure Bill Riley read those, or he's listened to those. You can get them on Amazon, Brother Rich. Bill O'Reilly. And you can listen to the slave narratives about what we went through. There are people still living today that have vivid memories of what happened to our people back then. So we're not that far removed, Brother Rich. Only if we take time to be honest enough with one another. That's one of the things that Dr. Joy DeGruy talked about in her life work, post-traumatic slavery syndrome, is the fact that the first thing that we need to do to kind of deal with cognitive dissonance is we need to be honest.
Right.
That is the only thing that's going to work for us as a people and actually work for white people to cure them of that disease that they have called racism, white supremacy, which they've morphed into a system to control, dominate darker-skinned people of the planet, simply because they know that if we were able to just be free, right, that we would repopulate the earth and everyone would look like us. So to answer your question directly, white people on another earth, not having to experience racism, white supremacy, would they act naturally as far as dominating and subjugating black people? Would this be a natural occurrence for white people? I hate to say this, Brother Rich, but they absolutely would after experiencing and being among black people and comparing themselves to black people. You mean to tell me Tommy and Johnny and Paulie and the rest of these people can't go down to fucking CVS and buy suntan lotion? Come on, man. That's a problem. We have natural suntan lotion, Brother Rich. It's called melanin. And this is very real. So to black people out there, you are what you think. Listen, you are not what other people think that you are. That's not, we don't have to go by that edict, so to speak. We don't have to follow that trend. We are what we think we are. And we need to act from that. But in order for you to act from that, we need to answer the three questions that Frantz Fanon asked us to answer. Who are we? Where are we? And are we all that we ought to be in this world? Let's answer these questions, and let's move forward. Elijah Muhammad asked us to ask ourselves, who is the original man? We have to answer these questions so we can understand who and what we are before we can even understand who other people are, especially white people. When Bill Riley starts running his mouth about the slave trade and slaves and how the hell we ate and how we lived.
No, that was powerful, brother. That was powerful. That breakdown of nature. Wow, that was deep. I got one more question for you, Professor Griff. One more question. I hear a lot of stories about. I've heard. different people say different things about, in terms of history, and in terms of Hitler, in terms of the Germans. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that after, Hitler so-called died, they came to America, changed their names, and, just acted like they was a normal white person here in this country. A lot of the scientists came over here. I hear people say that the Queen of England is German, that they have no problem changing their names and their identities and remaining in power. I hear people say that the Jews did the same thing. They changed their names in Hollywood, so people wouldn't know how much power they hold in terms of the media. I hear people talk about, just different factions, like we mentioned earlier, of white people. And, the Vatican, the Catholics. You hear about the Vatican all the time and the power they hold in the world today. We always hear about, the term the head nigger in charge and this and that. Who's on top of the food chain according to your research? Because I know there's so much confusion out there, and I know that people want to hear what you have to say. Who's running the show according to your research in terms of racism, white supremacy? What group is ahead of? I mean, is there such thing as a group being ahead of the other groups? Are they working together? Because some people say it's the Jews, some people say it's the Vatican, some people say it's the Germans, some people say it's the Queen of England. According to your research, who's on top of this food chain, the head cracker in charge? Who's doing this, Professor Griff?
Well, if we can put it that way, the head cracker in charge, I don't think there's any one answer that I could give you to say this person or that group, as far as an ethnic group is concerned, or a race. I think that they operate in secret societies, in clubs, and in organizations which make up the totality of their system called racism, white supremacy. I'm going to say this, and I'm running the risk of contradicting myself from other interviews, but I'm going to use the term belief because it's probably the word that most people would understand if I put it in the sentence correctly. I don't believe that it's one group of people. Mm-hmm. It's one race of people. I believe they have come together to put together a system, and they operate on different levels. Most operate in secret, and you're absolutely correct. Most people that make progress in America, especially in America, which is called the melting pot, do come to America and change their names. Jewish people have changed their names. Not all Jewish people, some Jewish people that wanted to operate in Hollywood and other places to more American-sounding names. They did this in politics also. And they did that for a reason. If you go back into Myron Fagan's work and you listen to Myron Fagan will take you into that work and why Jewish people changed their names. German people and other people being subjugated and by other white people have came into America and have adopted and taken on American-sounding names, whatever that is, American-sounding names to make progress, and without being recognized just by the sound of their name. Black people try to assimilate by taking on white names. I've known some white black people that have actually given their children white-sounding names to make progress, for their children to make progress in an all-white America, or predominantly white America for the future. Names like Ashley and Taylor, and I know some black people with these names. These are not our names. And we need to kind of look into why black people do these things. We have these unisex names, Brother Rich, names that can fit both male and female. I'm going to let you take a deep breath on that, Brother Rich. Because we can actually, listen, I know a female named Ricky. I know a female named Morgan. I know a dude named Morgan Freeman, and some other people. I know a dude named Ricky. You understand what I'm saying? So now we have these names now that, that are both male and female, but now they're American-sounding names. Now you don't know who the person is over the phone. You think you talking to You think you talking to a white Anglo-Saxon to the root coming in to get the job interview, and a Chinese dude show up. You understand what I'm saying? Because now we starting to sound alike, and everybody has these unisex kind of names, and this is critical. This is what these people that's controlling this thing really truly wants to happen in America. This quote-unquote melting pot, while they leave their bloodline pure. I'm going to say this again. They want this melting pot of the races in America, while they leave their bloodline pure. They don't want the race mixing. They don't want the blood mixing. They don't want that, but they'll let the savages, the animals, those of us that are subhuman, and this is how they handle us and deal with us in their documents, Brother Rich. Read the Secret Covenant and go through that document, which I've often read several times. They don't want you mixed. They don't want to mix their blood with you. They want to control the dynamic between the races in the melting pot in America. They want us all to be Americans while they remain pure German, pure Jewish, pure this, pure that. And this is a very real dynamic. So we have to understand and operate from that premise, Brother Rich. So your man Bill O'Reilly took issue with aspects of Michelle Obama's speech. And when he talked about how the slaves built, saying that the slaves who built the White House were well fed. Well, fed what, Brother Rich? Bill O'Reilly, I invite you to come down to the hood and let's look at the average meal of the black person in America, especially Big Mama or the grandmother that's still feeding her grandchildren pig feet and ham hocks. You understand what I'm saying? And chitlins, which are the fucking pig's intestines, man. You call that being fed well? Look at some of the eating habits that black people have. Look at some of the things that we eat and the combination of the things that we eat. Look at how we eat. How dare Bill O'Reilly? Listen, there was a young lady. Let me see if I can get her name right. I thought I saved it because I was reading the article. Shonda Rhimes. Blast Bill O'Reilly's comment on Michelle Obama's speech. She basically told this dude, try slavery, Bill. Let us know how good the food is while you're wearing chains. Woo! I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, weeks ago with Khalid El Hakim at the Black History 101 Mobile Museum. A lady came by with tears in her eyes and asked me, Professor Griff, is it possible, are these the chains that our ancestors actually wore? I said, yes, ma'am, they are. She says, well, can I try them on? And I hesitated. I'm like, are you sure? She says, yes, I'm sure. I said, okay. I put the chains on her. She immediately started crying.
Wow.
She said, these chains are really heavy. Did we have to carry these all day? And did we have to work in these? I said, yes, ma'am. On our ankles, on our wrists, and around our necks. She said, how can anybody work like this? You follow what I'm saying, Brother Rich? Yeah. Maybe Bill O'Reilly didn't read that part of the slave narratives. And it's a very real dynamic that most white people will never, ever understand about what black people went through. And that's just one example. I could give you 1,000 more, Brother Rich. Michelle Obama said, I wake up every morning in a house that was built by slaves. Well, Michelle Obama, you're absolutely 1,000% correct. Not only did we build the goddamn White House, we were never allowed in the goddamn house. Not only were we not allowed to in the damn White House, we probably laid out the diagram for the house. We probably laid out the blueprint. We were the master masons that built it. Not only did we lay the brick and mortar, we were the ones that laid out the blueprint for it, the architecture for it. We positioned it in such a way on the planet according to the stars alignment and the ley lines and the grids that will get a certain kind of energy. We did that, Michelle Obama. So when Bill O'Reilly turns around and want to make his racist-ass comment about black people help building the White House, no, we could go deeper than that, Bill. Won't you give me a call, Bill, and have me on the factor? My number is 678-557-2919. We can talk, Bill. Plain and simple. These are slaves that worked, were well fed, and had decent lodging. Where the hell was this at? Because you can go in and around the White House right now. We can go back to Georgetown in D.C., And we can go back to Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and the rest of their homes in Philadelphia and in D.C. and around the country, which I've been to their homes. You understand what I'm saying? If they was living like they were living, with luxury, can you imagine how we were living? Stop that, man. Now, Bill, you need to go back and do your research, bruh. Plain and simple. And I can give you some books that you can read. Contact Waloko Rashidi. You can start there. You can you can I want to give him some books that he can read. There is a river. I forget the author's name. It'll come to me in a minute. Study Joy DeGrew's work, Dr. Joy DeGrew. Matter of fact, you can start with Joy DeGrew. So you can get it from a woman's perspective. We can bring you right up on the date because you may not be able to handle Nomo X from Columbus, Ohio. You may not be able to handle that. You may not be able to handle Khalid Muhammad giving you some of this information. There's the sirens again, like clockwork, Brother Rich. see, Bill Riley don't hear that outside his window every Wednesday night.
Nah, he does.
We do. And that siren was designed to let the other slave catchers know, which ultimately became the police force in America, Brother Rich, that a slave that ran away, they would have the siren and the bell, and their own way of letting all the other slave catchers know, get your dog, get your gun, get your horse, saddle up, let's go. We got to catch some slaves.
Talk about
it. You understand what I'm saying? And this is a very real dynamic, Brother Rich. Bill O'Reilly, I want you to read Black Out Through Whitewash. I want you to read the missing pages of history. I want you to read the Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization by Anthony Browder. I want you to read the Browder Files. I want you to contact Dr. Leonard Jeffries and sit down with him and Rosalind Jeffries, and I want you to get that bit of history that you so desperately need, Bill O'Reilly, because obviously you're out of touch with what really went on in history. Then I want you to go around the corner, down the block, and up to New Rochelle somewhere and contact Professor Smalls. All right? And he'll introduce you to Brother Kaba and a few other people. All right? And then I'll take you to a few black people's libraries, homes that I know that have massive libraries, and we can sit your white ass down and give you some black history. All right? Then I want you to call Khalid El Hakim, and I want you to walk through his museum, and I want you to see all the artifacts that he's collected, over 7,000, so you can get a thorough, up-front, up-close, in-person on what it really truly means to be a black person in America coming up out of slavery. Thank you. Mr. Bill O'Reilly. Thank you, sir.
O'Reilly, that's an Irish name, too, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Irish. Riley, O'Toole, O'Fool.
Yeah.
Shit, my name before I changed it was Irish. Griffin.
Wow.
Why was walking with the slave master's names? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the sad part about it, if the Irish really wanted to take notice of them being enslaved, then why would they turn around and subjugate us to a form of slavery? Under their thumb. There was Irish slave traders. How the hell do you think we got Irish names? So the conversation goes a lot deeper than that. Brother Rich, there was a point that Michelle Obama made which kind of rocked me back in my seat. She said this election, any election, is not about black and white and all this other kind of stuff. It's about who will have the power to shape our children for the next 4 to 8 years of their lives. God damn. Can you imagine that? Taking that, what Michelle Obama said, and putting that on the shoulders of her husband. Well, let's look at it real quick, Brother Rich. How has Barack Obama shaped, for the last 4 to 8 years, shaped the minds, the spirit, the hearts of our children for the last 4 to 8 years? I want Michelle Obama to think about that. And before you put all your energy and efforts behind Hillary Clinton, who's not done right by black people, Michelle, I think you need to look into that. Or you continue to do commercials for Hillary Clinton. Michelle Obama talked about the hateful language that is not representative of the average white American. Stop that, man. Why do you think so many people are voting for Trump? Michelle, wake the fuck up, Michelle Obama. For real. This is not the black America that you dream of. We live a real life in the hood, seriously. And come on down to the hood and check us out. so we can give you a bird's eye view into how we really live. Last but not least, she said she had to get with her husband, Barack Obama, and to figure out how well they will manage this experience that they will actually take their children through by being the First Lady and the President of the United States. Well, Michelle Obama, how well do we have to manage this thing we call being black? Thank you, Brother Rich.
Well said, brother. And on that note, Professor Griff, why don't you give the people any information that they need to contact you, as well as anything you got coming up for them?
Well, as always, Brother Rich, people can reach me at 678-557-2919. People can email me at seriousmindsinfo@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook at Serious Minds and Enemy Minds. Of course, Instagram, Serious Minds or Professor Griff. You can tweet me. I'm not really a Twitter yet. I can't really do the Twitter thing every now and then. I'll put something out. But my tag is Griff the Enemy on Twitter. And Brother Rich, as always, the alchemical fighter thing is popping off. It's the third one we're doing, and it's building and it's growing. Brother Rich, we're going to shift the dynamic of it as far as how people can see it. We're going to do Google Hangout at Serious Minds, the Serious Minds Google Hangout on the 17th of August, which is the next alchemical cipher. And hope people can join us at the Dream Cafe, 249 Peter Street, August 17th at the next alchemical cipher. All right. Well, like I said, Brother Rich, stay tuned for Serious Minds TV, which we're setting that off, and of course Serious Minds Radio. And once again, man, I'll be in Indianapolis in September. Public Enemy is doing the damn thing. Shout out to Ice-T. I made Ice-T get his behind down on the stage the other night, Brother Rich, and do some damn push-ups with me and the S1 man. Real, man. Shout out to Stretch from Naughty by Nature. Shout out to Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5. All the brothers that's on the old school tour that we rolling with. It's some real, true brothers, man, that are out there, man. Shout out to my man, Dougie Fresh, and everybody is part of the old school thing that's represented. They're bringing the 90s hip-hop back, Brother Rich. Did you know?
No. What's going on with that?
There's a resurgence of 90s hip-hop, man. Those brothers are now on tour. I had the privilege of walking through security the other morning, early in the morning with Vanilla Ice, and he dropped a bombshell on me, man. He says how they contacted him to get together with all these other artists, and they're bringing back the 90s hip-hop.
Wow, about time, man. Wow.
I'm serious. They're about to neutralize all this madness that's out there.
Yeah.
As I was in Vegas, I noticed that New Edition is on tour with Babyface. They're always on the road. Dougie Fresh is always on the road. Frankie Beverly and Maze, always on the road. I run into these guys all the time. So good music, soulful music, good hip-hop is making its way back to an iPad near you, man, to a cell phone near you, to a constant home near you, for real. Thank God. Anyway, love you to life, Brother Rich.
Yeah, right? That's my era, man. I'm glad, man. That's my era. I can't take too much of this music that's going on now, man. So I'm definitely happy about that. Once again, I want to thank Professor Griff, the living legend, for coming on the show. Everybody out there listening, I want to say thank you. Everybody out there that sends donations in, whether it's $1, 50 cents, whatever you can send. I appreciate what you have sent. Some of you send $10 and say, hey, this is for the whole year. I appreciate that. Some of you even sent $100, so I appreciate the few who sent that. But I want to thank everybody who sent something. Something means everything to me. So thank you. Thank Professor Griff for coming on the show. This is Brother Rich, Underground Railroad Radio, and we signing out, family. We're going to see you next week. Peace. Peace, family. This is Brother Rich from UGR, urging all my viewers and subscribers to help support the channel by donating just $1 to the UGR PayPal account. We appreciate the viewership and support, and we understand the power of $1. If you benefit in any way, shape, or form, we ask that you donate $1, whether it be monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, or yearly, so that we can build our brand to compete with the NBCs, the MTVs, and the Foxes of the world. I figure since Kanye could ask Mark Zuckerberg for $1 billion,
I can ask my subscribers to donate $1 so I could make the best possible content possible. The main objective of this channel is to inspire you to become the greatest version of yourself. So hopefully throughout the years of you watching this program, you have been inspired to become the greatest version of yourself. If you would like to donate, you could go to www.paypal.com and send a donation to richandmerit7@yahoo.com. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your program.